It's been just over a year since the last stock market crash, and investors are wondering if another one is on the way. With economic momentum slowing as the effects of fiscal stimulus wear off, it's not surprised that equities seem to be fading too. Meanwhile, labor shortages and stretched supply chains remain lingering issues, while inflation is starting to be passed on to consumers. It seems like this should be a risk-off environment, but retail traders appear to be the only investors having a good time. Does that mean we are in a bubble and due for a pop? Jeremy Grantham, market historian and co-founder of the Boston investment firm GMO, debates the subject. He said that the pandemic crash is quite distinct from a classic long bull market ending, as they usually do in a bubble and bust. As a sharp external effect, it was more like the 1987 technical crash caused by portfolio insurance, a short hit and sharp recovery. Looking back, although they were painful at the time, they were mere blips on the longer term build-up of confidence toward a market peak. The last 12 months have been a classic finale to an 11-year bull market. Peak overvaluation across each decile by price to sales, so that the most expensive 10% is worse than it was in the 2000 tech bubble, and the remaining 9 deciles are much more expensive. All measures of depth and margin are at peaks. Speculative measures such as call option volumes, volume of individual trading, and quantities of over-the-counter or penny stocks are all at records. Robinhood and commission-free retail trading have driven a surge of new investors with no experience of past bubbles and burst. So the scale of craziness is larger. Cryptocurrencies represent over $1 trillion of claims on total asset value while adding nothing, pure dilution, as per Jeremy. He also says that finally, Dogecoin, AMC and GameStop, worth billions in the market and not even pretending to be serious investment. AMC is up nearly 10 times since before the pandemic, even though box office is down nearly 80%. Dogecoin was created as a joke to make fun of cryptocurrencies being worthless, and not only has it taken off, but it's such a success that second level joke cryptocurrencies making fun of Dogecoin have gone to multi-billion dollar valuations. Meanwhile, other cryptocurrencies have seen success purely on the basis of their scatological names. Meme investing, the idea that something is worth investing in or rather gambling on simply because it is funny, has become commonplace. It's a totally nihilistic parody of actual investing. This is it guys, the biggest US fantasy trip of all time, says Jeremy Grantham. All 4 chairmen post-Volcker have underestimated the potential economic damage from inflated asset prices, particularly housing, deflating rapidly. The role of higher asset prices on increasing inequality also has not been considered. Asset bubbles are extremely dangerous. The Fed should act to deflate all asset prices as carefully as they could, knowing that an earlier decline, however painful, would be smaller and less dangerous than waiting. The analogy of jumping off an accelerating bus seems a suitably painful one. This current event is particularly dangerous because bonds, stocks and real estate are all inflated together. Even commodities have surged. That perfecta and a half has never happened before anywhere. The closest was Japan in 1989 with 2 hyperinflated asset categories, record land and real estate, worse than the South Sea bubble, together with record PEs in stocks recorded at the time as 65x. The consequences for the economy were dire, and neither land nor stocks have yet returned to their 1989 peaks. Checking all the necessary boxes of a speculative peak, the US market was entitled historically to start unraveling any time after January this year. One odd characteristic of the 3 biggest bubbles in the US, 1929, 1972 and 2000, is that the very end was preceded by blue chips outperforming more aggressive, higher beta stocks. In 2000, 4-5 months from March, tech-related stocks crashed by 50% as the S&P 500 was unchanged and the balance of the market was up over 15%. In 1972, before the biggest bear market since the Depression, the S&P outperformed the average stock by 35%. And in 1929, the effect was even more extreme, with the racy S&P low price index down nearly 30% before the broad market crashed. Today, the Nasdaq and Russell 2000 are below the level of Feb, 4.5 months later, and many of the leading growth stocks are down. Tesla has fallen from $900 to $625. The SPAC ETF is down 25% since February. Meanwhile, the S&P has chugged higher by 8% since Feb 9. Probably the asset that most resembles the Nasdaq in 2000 is Bitcoin, and it has been cut in half over the last several weeks. In 2000, the Nasdaq crashing 50% was a perfect warning shot for the broad market 6 months in advance. The extent and speed of the new stimulus program was surprising and was guaranteed to help a bubble keep going. Equally surprising was the success of the recovery program in much of the developed world. Together, they should make the bubble longer lived and bigger. What it will not do, though, is change the justifiable market value that will be reached one day. Therefore, as always, the higher we go, the longer and deeper the pain. Getting back in is technically easy but psychologically difficult. Start to average in as the market reaches more reasonable levels, says 18 times earnings. Asset allocation is particularly difficult today, with all major asset classes overpriced. With interest rates at a 4,000-year low, two sectors are at historical low ratios, however. Emerging market equities compare the S&P and value growth stocks versus growth. Jeremy says that in addition to a cash reserve to take advantage of a future market break, it's better to put as large a position in the intersection of these two relatively cheap sectors, value stocks and emerging market equities, as you can stand. They will return a decent 10 and 20-year return and perhaps do much better. The S&P is likely to do poorly in comparison. Bitcoin should be avoided. Cryptocurrencies total over $1 trillion of claims on real global assets, while adding nothing to the GDP pool. Pure dilution, concludes Jeremy Grantham. Guys, what do you think about Jeremy's views? Please tell me your considerations in the comment section below this video. Also like this video, subscribe to our beautiful channel, and on which topic should I create my next video, please tell me in the comment section below this video. I'll catch you in my next video. Till then, you can surf previous videos on our channel. Bye bye.